I'm a brown bear. In this wealthy circle, the young ladies all have contract beasts, but while others have little kittens or puppies, Willow is unique. She chose me, a brown bear. When we were young, we relied on each other. When others mocked me, she would retort, "So what if it's a brown bear?" A brown bear's all cuddly and warm. Because of those words, I endured countless wounds to protect her as she grew up. But then, later on, she said to her friend, "Could you lend me your little puppy? I'll trade you for my gluttonous, silly bear." I froze. The honey I had been licking slipping from my hand. I thought all night about it. I decided to break the contract. No one knows the truth. I'm not just any ordinary beastman. The reason I stayed by her side wasn't because she bound me with a contract. It's because I bound myself to her. I could leave anytime. Chapter 1. I sat at the table, scooping honey with a spoon. A bit of honey got on the corner of my mouth, so I quickly licked it off, not wanting to waste a single drop. When Willow came home from her trip, she caught me enjoying it. I smiled at her and asked, "Do you want some? It's really good." Willow furrowed her brow slightly and shook her head. "No, you enjoy it." As she walked up the stairs, she paused for a moment and said, "You're a bear. Can you stop eating like a pig? Aren't you about 170 pounds by now?" I froze, unable to reply. She continued as she walked upstairs, "Eat less, or people will think you're a fat pig." I stared at myself in a daze. In my human form, I stand at 6 feet 1 inch, and I thought I wasn't overweight. Sophia, the housekeeper, tried to comfort me, saying, "Miss didn't mean it like that. She's always liked you since you were young," she added. I lowered my head, mumbling a quiet acknowledgement. I'd grown up with Willow, and I knew every expression she made. Her gaze earlier had been full of disdain. Holding my beloved honey, I wanted to go upstairs and explain to her. Fat is a necessity for a bear's survival. To please her, I had already shortened my fat storing period and lengthened my fat burning period. I could not afford to lose more weight. I walked up the stairs and stopped in front of her room. The door was slightly ajar. She was on the phone. She said, "Maria, your little puppy is so cute. The one I have just eats nonstop the moment he gets back. Maria, why don't you let me borrow your new dog for a couple of days?" I froze, the spoon suspended in midair. I heard Willow laughing and adding, "Or, I could trade him for my silly, gluttonous bear. Don't let his clumsiness fool you. He's strong and can fight. Great value for the price. Anyway, he's stuck with me now. If I break the contract, no one else will take him, and he'll starve. He has no choice but to stick with me." I stood there, stunned. The honey dripped onto my hand, but I didn't even bother to lick it. I didn't eat anything the whole night. Sophia brought me a big bowl of fruit and vegetables, but I didn't touch any of it. I just curled up on the bed, lost in thought. Sophia rushed upstairs to find Willow, saying, "George is sick. He used to eat a whole bowl of vegetables, but tonight, he hasn't eaten anything." Willow came to my room and checked my forehead. It didn't feel hot, so she snorted and said, "No wonder they say, bears are cute when they're young, but their hearts turn bad when they grow up." Isn't that what I said? You look like a fat pig, and now you're sulking. Look at other people's contract beasts. Look at Maria's dog. See how it behaves. People love to walk their dogs, exercise them. Unlike you, stuck at home all day, eating and sleeping. I stared at her for a long time before I managed to say, "But I'm a bear." "You knew that when you met me." Willow's expression changed. She looked at me coldly and said, "Back then, I didn't know. I didn't know you would eat every day. If I had known, I would have." She stopped abruptly, leaving her sentence unfinished. Turning around, she walked to the door, stopped for a moment, and said, "Why can't you just be a little puppy?" I stood frozen, staring at her retreating figure. I suddenly realized that I no longer understood Willow as much as I once did. When we were younger, she had been so cute and well-behaved. Back then, I was just a bear cub, fluffy and round. I had been tricked into the black market by a jar of honey. Little Willow, among a crowd of beasts, had picked me, the unwanted one. She said she liked me chubby, that it was comfortable to hold me. We used to sleep together, play together. Her parents were always out, never at home. She made me promise to always stay with her and protect her. She said she would always be good to me. For those words, her parents, Lou father and Lou mother, were secretly harmed, and her relatives tried to seize the Lou family's inheritance. Time and time again, I saved her from assassination attempts. The assassins were very skilled. I wasn't an adult yet, so I didn't have enough strength. I ate and ate, trying desperately to make myself stronger. Back then, Willow fed me everything she had. Once, I was stabbed in the stomach, and the pain almost made me lose my human form. I transformed into a bear. If it weren't for the thick fat protecting me, I might not have survived. At that time, Willow cried, begging me not to sleep. She said if I fell asleep, there would be no meaning to her staying in this world. I didn't want her to be sad, so I gritted my teeth and fought through the life and death ordeal. Willow said she was glad I was so strong, that the fat protected me, but she never called me a fat pig back then. When did she start disliking me? Let me think. Oh, it seems like it started when that little dog that followed her everywhere appeared. Chapter 2. That day, Willow took me to visit Maria's house. As soon as we entered, I saw a tall, lean man. He had a pair of little puppy ears on his head, barking and happily rolling around beside Maria. It gave me the chills. When he saw Willow and me, he ran over, circled around Willow once, wagging his tail happily. Willow, looking at him, blushed and stared for a long time. She played cards with Maria but seemed distracted the entire time. That evening, back home, she was in the studio drawing while I went in with Honey to keep her company. When she saw me, Willow quickly covered her drawing and said, "Next time, knock before coming in. Go eat your honey in the dining room. Why come to the studio?" I opened my mouth, wanting to say, "Every day at this time, I'm in the studio anyway." I took a spoonful of honey, ate it quietly, and just stared at Willow's stunning, beautiful face. When Willow got tired of drawing, she'd rest in my arms for a while, but that day, she kicked me out of the studio, saying I shouldn't come in anymore. As I left, I caught a glimpse of her drawing on the paper. It was a little person, with pointy ears and a smile showing sharp teeth. It was Maria's little puppy. I sat down in the living room, forgetting to turn on the lights. I felt an emptiness in my heart. Late at night, Willow came out of the studio. In the moonlight, she saw me sitting there, dazed, and sighed. She came over and wrapped her arms around mine, saying, "Go to sleep. I won't lose my temper anymore." I lowered my head and muttered, "Actually, if you don't like me, I can leave." Willow snorted and said, "Where would you go? You're my contract beast. You have to stay with me for the rest of your life, unless I decide to break the contract." She tightened her grip on my arm and said, "I will never break it. Who else would take care of you?" She led me upstairs, watched me lie down, then threw herself into my arms, just like on countless nights before. But at the moment the light turned off, she suddenly said, "George, you need to mature, at least work out. Get some abs, change your hairstyle." I stared at her back in the dark. After a while, I quietly said, After that, Willow changed my late-night snacks. I used to get jerky, wraps, and the honey fish jerky I loved so much. Now, she replaced everything with vegetables and fruit. I ate as much as I could, but it was only enough to fill me halfway. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I secretly ate a piece of jerky, but Willow caught me. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're hopeless." I really wanted to tell Willow, "You're headed in the wrong direction. I'm a bear, not a dog. Bears have a huge appetite." She knew I was a bear when she brought me home. It seemed like Willow realized she might have gone too far. A few days later, she suddenly bought me a pet accessory. I was kind of happy at first, but then I saw that the gift was a dog collar. She happily said, "If you wear this collar, you won't look so fierce." Willow paused, then added, "In a few days, Maria's little puppy will come over, so you need to get along with him." Chapter 3. The moment the little dog, Makoto, stepped into the house, I felt uncomfortable all over. Bears are animals with strong territorial instincts. We cannot tolerate the presence of other creatures in our territory. We would fight even the fiercest tigers to protect it. But when I saw Willow gazing at that dog with such fascination, I gritted my teeth, suppressing the urge to chase him away. Willow asked me to greet Makoto, so I reluctantly took the honey and went over. Willow frowned and said, "So useless, can't even keep your mouth shut." I looked up at her in surprise. I put the honey down in disappointment. I was starting to miss home, the forest where I grew up. I'm the son of the Bear King, and there, I could have as much honey as I wanted. But here, when I shift back into my human form, my fur looks dull and rough, with no luster at all. I sighed. Makoto's smile was warm, but there was something in his eyes that I just couldn't stand. I'm a wild animal, born with sharp instincts. I looked up at Willow and said, "I'm not feeling well. Can I leave now?" Makoto immediately dropped his tail, looking at Willow in confusion. Willow's expression darkened instantly. She huffed, "How can you be so rude? Makoto just got here, and you're already showing him who's boss." I stared at her in confusion. I didn't understand what she meant by showing him who's boss. I didn't do anything. Makoto sighed and said, "It's okay. Bears are naturally fierce. I can handle it." He forced a smile, trying to act nonchalant as he said, "Actually, I kind of envy George. No matter how much I work out, I can never get this big." Then, he reached out and patted me on the shoulder. Just that one pat caused a sharp pain, and my face contorted in agony. His claws were incredibly sharp, and as he patted me, they dug deep into my flesh. I couldn't control my anger. I'm a brown bear. To protect Willow, I've killed 30 of the top human assassins. He didn't mean to do that by accident. He extended his claws on purpose. My rationality snapped. All I felt was rage. I swung my hand without thinking, landing a heavy blow on him that sent him flying from the dining room to the door. I heard his pained yelp as he crashed to the ground. I froze for a moment. I thought that, no matter how weak he might seem, he was still a descendant of wolves. He shouldn't be this fragile. I pulled my hand back, nervously glancing at Willow. I just gave him a little tap. Willow's eyes were icy as she raised her hand, ready to slap me. Her hand stopped just an inch away from my face, and she pulled it back. Her lips pressed together, and she said in a cold, measured tone, "Get out right now." In all the years I've known Willow, she's never told me to leave when she was mad. Even when I was younger, when I used to annoy her by destroying her room or eating her homework, she would just stomp her feet, run out of the house, and avoid me. I turned away in silence, dragging my heavy body up the stairs. I heard Willow behind me, speaking to Makoto. He's a bit dumb, but don't mind him. Chapter 4. I didn't leave the room all night. Sophia secretly brought me some dried fish, but I didn't touch a single piece. I could hear Willow downstairs, laughing happily. When Sophia told her I wasn't eating, Willow paused and said, "That's fine, actually. Otherwise, people would think I'm raising a pig at home." I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, missing home even more. Late into the night, when Makoto had fallen asleep, Willow pushed open my door and said, "I'm just looking out for you. You're becoming more and more violent." I replied, expressionless. He provoked me. If I retaliate, it's considered being violent. Does that mean, no matter what the other person does, if I strike, I'm the one with violent tendencies? Willow hesitated before saying, "It's not the same. You're a bear, and he's a dog. No matter how much he hits you, it won't hurt. A bear should never hit a dog, just like a man should never hit a woman." I asked, "What if the other person strikes first?" She answered, "No matter the reason, you shouldn't strike. A bear that hits a dog is no good, just like a man who hits a woman is worthless." I sighed and said, "Willow, do you really like Makoto? Do you not like me anymore? I've heard that humans often cling to street dogs when they are poor. But once they become successful, they discard the street dog and buy an expensive pedigree dog to raise, leaving the street dog to die in the cold. Am I the same?" Willow froze for a moment before softly replying, "No." She added, "I don't like him. I just think it's wrong to bully the weak. I don't like the way you acted." I closed my eyes. Willow only speaks softly when she's lying. So, Willow has already lied to me for his sake. I sighed and said, "Got it. Let's sleep." Willow nodded, turned, and headed for the door. It seemed like she forgot that ever since she was little, she always slept in my arms. She used to say that was the safest place for her. At the door, she said, "I'll stay in the guest room from now on. You're too big. It makes me uncomfortable." I nodded quietly. After Willow left, I stared at the moonlight outside the window, unable to sleep all night. My mind replayed memories of playing in the sand, riding horses, and climbing trees with Willow when we were young. I stayed awake until the moon slowly set. When the sun finally rose, I closed my eyes and tears streamed down my face. I whispered an incantation under my breath. The bond of the blood contract slowly began to loosen with the chant. In 3 days, the contract would be completely dissolved. Willow no longer needed me, and I planned to go back home. Chapter 5. In the morning, I rubbed my bloodshot eyes and went downstairs for breakfast. Willow was in the bathroom, and downstairs, it was just me and that dog. He saw me drinking bone soup from a basin and laughed loudly. "You drink soup from a basin?" I couldn't be bothered to argue with him, so I just lowered my head and tore into a lamb leg. He furrowed his brows and said, "George, I heard your bed is the sturdiest, with the softest mattress. Is that true?" I nodded and asked, "Why?" He grinned and said, "I'm picky about beds. Couldn't sleep a wink last night. Anyway, you bears are used to sleeping in caves and don't care much about comfort. How about letting me have your bedroom?" Without even lifting my head, I replied, "Not happening." That was the place where I had slept since I was a cub. Even if I only had 3 more days to stay, I would never give it up. The dog seemed surprised by my refusal and sneered, "You know Willow asked me to come, right?" I nodded and continued eating. I had also come because she asked me to, so what did that matter? He went on, "Her asking me to come means you're no longer useful as a pet. From now on, you'll have to recognize me as your big brother. Understand?" I put down the lamb leg, speaking slowly and deliberately. "You want Willow to come and tell me that? Recognize a dog as my big brother? Do you know how much you weigh? Do you think you can talk to me like that?" Makoto's dog face twisted with anger. At that moment, I heard soft footsteps behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know Willow was coming downstairs. The dog suddenly gave me a strange smile and began growling at me. His sharp teeth gleamed ominously in the light of the dining room. I didn't know why he was acting like this, but it triggered the predator instinct inside me. I instinctively raised my hand, ready to strike. I wanted to slam him down and turn him into a pancake. But just then, I heard Willow's angry shout, "George, what do you think you're doing? Something hit my head. It was a vase Willow had thrown. She used all her strength, and it made my forehead ache. I rubbed the sore spot and looked at Willow. Her eyes were filled with disgust, and she said, "Last night, I thought you just lost control for a moment, but now I see, you're just that violent." The dog had actually moved closer to Willow and put his arm around her shoulder. He said, "Willow, I suffer from insomnia." I tried talking to George about switching rooms, but he immediately flew into a rage and wanted to fight. "Willow, you know, I'm not really afraid of him. I just think violence won't solve anything." What a damn actor. This small body of his wasn't scared of me. I glared at the slick-talking poodle, grinding my teeth. Bears like to fight, not talk. I thought for a moment and could only mutter, "He dares to covet my room." Willow coldly replied, "What if he wants to sleep in your room? He's a guest. He wants to sleep there. Let him. What's the big deal? Because of a bed, you want to kill him? Your beastly nature never changes." At her words, I couldn't say a single word. There was no point. Willow turned to Sophia and ordered, "Move George's stuff downstairs into your room." She then looped her arm through Makoto's and said, "From today on, he'll sleep in George's room." Sophia hesitated. "Is this okay? That's George's room, the one he's been sleeping in since he was a cub." Before Willow could respond, I interrupted Sophia. "Doesn't matter. I'm leaving soon anyway." Willow froze and asked, "Where will you go?" "Where else? You think I can't go anywhere besides here?" Makoto shrugged. "He's got a contract. He probably can't go anywhere." Willow snorted. "Exactly. What are you pretending for? You think the world will stop turning without you?" I wanted to laugh but was too speechless to do so. I said nothing, just turned around and went upstairs to pack my things. But when I looked around, I only took the plush cat I had slept with since I was little. I came downstairs and said, "I'm ready." Willow froze for a moment and asked, "Aren't you taking your clothes or other things?" I shook my head. Those were all things Willow had bought. Sets and pairs she used with me, clothes, shoes, toothbrushes, cups. I never had any interest in them. I didn't need them. The only thing I cared about was this plush cat. That was what I was taking. Chapter 6. That evening, Sophia and I lay down in the servant's room downstairs. I could feel the contract loosening again. Sophia sighed and tried to comfort me. "Miss really likes you. She even asked me to bring you some honey earlier. Afraid you might have low blood sugar." I nodded, listening to the sounds outside. Willow and that dog were playing a duet, and the music sounded lovely. I could hear Willow laughing joyfully. She had once wanted me to wear a suit and play the piano, to be more elegant, but I could pick up fighting skills easily. Yet no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't master the piano. Willow once said, "Bear paws are for slapping people. If you can't play, don't force it. I can always play for you later." Back then, I felt frustrated, thinking I was dumb. Willow had comforted me, saying, "It's fine. I don't like playing duets either. I prefer playing solo." But now, she was perfectly in sync with that dog, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. I closed my eyes and quietly felt the contract loosening a little more. The piano music suddenly stopped. Willow hurried over. The dog followed behind her, asking what was wrong. Willow didn't say a word, just quickly knocked on the door. "George, you in there?" I muttered. "Yeah, I'm about to sleep." Willow let out a sigh of relief. "It's nothing. I just suddenly felt like you were far away." She took a deep breath and continued, "Maybe I'm just too tired. You should sleep earlier." I responded with a simple, "Okay." Sophia exclaimed, "See, Miss still cares about you." As soon as she said that, the piano music and the dog's flattering barks resumed outside. Sophia didn't say anything else. I stared at the moonlight outside the window for a long time before slowly falling asleep. Turns out, I wasn't so dependent on that bed after all. The next day, Willow and Makoto went to a party. Everyone took their contracted beasts with them, but Willow never brought me. She said I was too stupid and afraid I would get lost. But how could I get lost? A bear's sense of smell is so sharp that I could find Willow anywhere just by following the scent. Today, that dog was dressed like a human, wearing a high-end suit, an expensive watch, and drove Willow to the evening party in a luxury car. Sophia stood beside me, watching Willow link arms with Makoto as they left, and sighed. She didn't say anything about how Willow still liked me. Her eyes were red as she said, "What are we going to do about George? Now no one's trying to assassinate Miss anymore. Our George's talents aren't showing. Nobody cares about our George anymore." I smiled and patted Sophia's shoulder, saying, "It's fine, Sophia. I don't mind. I'll find someone who's worth caring about." Sophia seemed even more upset. "Stop saying silly things. You and Miss have a blood contract. Only when she lets go can you leave." I smiled and didn't reply. Instead, I walked upstairs to the study. I found a small bookshelf. The bookshelf looked old-fashioned and simple, out of place with the expensive decor in the room. On it were old books, some over 10 years old. All of them were about brown bears, educational books, photo albums, and photography collections. These were all collected by Willow after she brought me home. She spent years collecting them, one by one. She treasured every book and image about brown bears as if they were precious. She knew more about brown bears than I did, but later, she forgot all of this knowledge. I sighed, packed up the books, and sent them to a charity fund. At least they would bring some joy to children in mountain villages who couldn't afford books. After selling the books, I went to my room and stared at the painting hanging on the wall, lost in thought. It was the painting Willow made of me when I was little. A ball of dusty fur with small, black eyes darting about, and little paws holding on to honey. Willow loved to draw, and she had studied with a famous teacher, creating many award-winning pieces, but she said her favorite was this one. After her parents passed away and relatives started causing trouble, whenever Willow was scared, she would quietly look at this painting for a long time. Then she would jump into my arms and say, "I'm not afraid anymore, because George is by my side." She would say, "I'll live well, otherwise, who will take care of us?" But later, under my protection, no one from the Liu family bothered her anymore, and she became more and more spoiled, her temper growing worse. She never looked at the painting again. I took the painting down and looked at the dust on it. I gently blew, and the fine dust rose. With a little more force, the painting shattered in my hands, pieces falling into the trash can. It could never be put back together. I was leaving, and this painting no longer belonged here. Chapter 7. After throwing the broken pieces of the painting away, I walked to the backyard. I went to the glass conservatory, the place where I loved to lie and bask in the sun when I was a child. I shifted back into my bear form, lying in the sun while using my stiff claws to pull the fur from my body. I spent the whole day doing this, until evening. Sophia had been crying upstairs, saying, "George is so angry, he can't think straight." That night, Willow and Makoto returned. Willow, with eyes full of the satisfaction of a girl whose vanity had been fulfilled, said, "Did you see everyone watching the two of us while we were dancing today? Makoto, will you always come with me to parties from now on?" Makoto wagged his tail, smiling as he nodded. "Sure." I sat in the dining room, finished eating, and quietly washed the dishes. Afterward, I got up and returned to my room. Willow looked at me, wanting to say something, but hesitated. After a while, she spoke. "When will you stop being so big and clumsy? Then maybe I could invite you along too." I shook my head. "No need. This is just how I am. I wasn't a dainty little dog. As a bear, what else could I be but big and strong?" Willow's face darkened, and she turned to go upstairs. Makoto sneered, "You'll never get to hold her and dance." "Huh, she thinks you're disgusting." I nodded calmly, turned, and went back to my room. After a while, Willow suddenly rushed down the stairs and ran into my room. She looked frantic as she asked, "Where's the painting from upstairs?" She grabbed my hand and pulled me to the bedroom upstairs. Pointing at the empty wall, she asked, "Where's the portrait of you when you were little?" I replied flatly, "I put it away." Willow eyed me suspiciously, asking, "Why did you put it away?" I shrugged. "This isn't even my room anymore, so why should I hang my painting here?" Willow opened her mouth but couldn't find the words. Makoto, stunned for a moment, said, "Willow, you can still paint." He chuckled. "Miss Liu, could I have a portrait too? Hang it where I sleep so I can feel a sense of territory." Willow immediately forgot about my painting. She took Makoto's arm, and they headed to the studio. I almost forgot. Makoto's new here. He hasn't claimed his territory yet. I watched them leave, staring at their backs for a while. Then I rubbed my temples. It didn't matter. Just 2 more days, and the contract would be broken. That night, Willow painted a portrait of Makoto. The next day, she had it framed and hung it in their bedroom. After a while, she came to me and said, "If you apologize to Makoto and promise not to hit him again, I'll have Sophia set up a new bedroom for you and let you hang your own paintings." I shook my head. No need. I thought to myself, just 2 more days. I wouldn't make any more trouble. Willow, looking dissatisfied, said, "You're going too far. Are you trying to piss me off on purpose? This will only make me hate you more." I shrugged. "Think what you like." Willow bit her lip, not saying anything more, and went to the studio. Makoto stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at me with a smile. "How did someone as dumb as you end up as a contracted beast? You don't even know how to flatter a girl. You should just stay in the forest and live off raw meat." Sophia's face turned red with anger, but I stopped her from saying anything. I smiled and said, "Who says you're wrong? I had once lived freely in the forest. If not for my love of food, I would never have been tricked into human society. Actually, my father had tried to take me back twice. The first time, I was still young, and I played with Willow in the sand, pretending to be her horse. I was incredibly stubborn and refused to go back with my father. My father had no choice but to leave the plush cat my mother made for me and return alone. The second time was after I got stabbed in the stomach. My father insisted on taking me back to the forest. I was in intense pain, and I wanted to go home. But that night, Willow hugged me, tears falling onto my stomach. She choked out, "George, if you're not here, I don't want to live anymore. This world means nothing without you. Promise me you'll stay with me forever." "Okay." I looked at the teardrop glistening on her long lashes. So pure and sincere. I nodded and said, "Okay, I promise." At that time, I thought Willow and I would be together forever. Forever. Until she grew old and I became an old bear. Even when we were frail and walking slowly, she would buy me delicious food, and I would protect her, making sure no one could ever hurt her. I never imagined we would change. I lowered my head, bitterly smiling, and said to the smug Makoto, "I really am not cut out for human society, but at least I'm leaving soon." Just as the words left my mouth, Willow came out of the studio, standing at the top of the stairs, frowning. "You're saying you're leaving again. Where exactly are you going?" I sighed and said, "I'm going back to the forest where I was born." Willow looked at me with mocking eyes and rolled her eyes, saying, "You're my contracted beast. Unless I break the contract, you can't go anywhere. And you really are low class. You keep trying to threaten me. Haven't I told you? This will only make me hate you more." Everything online was right. Bears really become more cunning when they grow up. I furrowed my brow sharply. It felt as though my heart was being tightly gripped by a large hand, twisting and squeezing. I turned resolutely and walked away, standing in the yard, taking deep breaths. I could clearly feel the blood contract loosening even more, with only a small part still barely holding on. I could hear Sophia's worry, and Willow, indifferent, said, "He can't leave me. The contract's still binding. He's just pretending to be all tough, saying he's the son of the forest bear king, trying to raise his own value. But he's just so greasy." I glanced back at her, and in Willow's eyes was a hatred I had never seen before. Makoto, however, was lost in thought, staring at me. Chapter 8. I sat in the garden the entire day, pulling out tufts of my fur. At one point, I saw Makoto suddenly biting down on a cloth as if he had gone mad. Willow hurriedly took him to the doctor. I glanced at them, then returned to my task, tugging at my fur. Sophia, with concern, said, "George, stop pulling at your fur. It must hurt." I shook my head and replied, "It doesn't hurt." I gathered the tufts of fur together and said, "Sophia, you have cold legs. Take this downy fur and make some knee pads. Bear fur is really warm." Sophia's tears fell, and she said, "I don't need it." "Stop pulling, you silly child," she added. "Come eat something secretly. No one's home right now." The teddy dog cried out in pain earlier. Miss took him to see the doctor. Sophia said angrily, "That dumb dog is always jumping around, fighting with you over food and bed. I've never seen him complain about heart pain. He jumps so high, and barks so loudly. Anyone would think he has rabies." I smiled and pushed the tufts of fur towards Sophia. "It's fine. I won't eat. The honey here doesn't taste good anyway. It's nothing like the honey back home. This one tastes like artificial additives." I continued pulling at my fur until the afternoon. When Willow returned in a hurry, she walked up to me, frowned at the fur scattered on the ground, and seemed to want to scold me, but she held back. After a brief hesitation, she asked, "George, do you want some dried fish?" Not understanding, I nodded. Who would say no to food? She hugged my arm and said, "Makoto passed out. He was diagnosed with congenital blood deficiency. They say a strong contract beast can give him a blood transfusion." "George, I know you're a good person." "A good person? Huh?" I glared at Willow angrily, then closed my eyes. There's no such thing as a blood deficiency in a contract beast. In fact, if a regular contract beast were to receive my blood, it would gain my strength. I had told Willow this before. Many contract beasts had tried to take advantage of my bloodline, hoping to use my blood to gain power. Back then, Willow was so worried for me. For a long time, she wouldn't allow any contract beasts to come near me. But now, she casually said, "Just 1,000 cubic centimeters will do. You're a bear. You won't even notice." I shook my head, yelling, "I won't give a single drop." Willow pursed her lips and said, "George, can't you just be a kind beast?" I continued, "Then why don't you try being a human? Do you even deserve to be one?" Willow's face hardened. "How dare you insult me? I don't care. Whether you want to or not, you will give this blood." She waved her hand, and a team of doctors and bodyguards appeared, armed with tranquilizer guns aimed at me. Sophia cried out in shock and covered her mouth, sobbing. "How can you do this, miss?" Willow cleared her throat and said, "George, I'm afraid you'll hurt someone in your rage. Just agree, and I'll give you some delicious food later." I said nothing, staring at her. Willow reached for my belly, but I swatted her hand away. Willow, biting her lip, said, "I've asked the vet. 1,000 cubic centimeters of blood won't harm a strong bear like you. Don't be scared." What do I have to be scared of? My anger had reached a boiling point. It felt like a volcano on the verge of eruption. The bodyguards restrained my arms, and one of the doctors came forward, sticking a cold needle into my vein. I stared at Willow with an expressionless face and said, "He lied. You know it." Willow furrowed her brows. George, you're going too far. Even now, you still want to slander Makoto. The pain in my chest surged violently. The intense agony made the blood bond tremble again. The remaining fragment of our bond cracked and shattered, breaking into pieces. In that instant, the contract between Willow and I was completely severed. I rotated my neck and heard Willow continuing. Why can't you be more understanding? Why do you always bully the weak? Makoto is a good person. Why do you always dislike him? He's just a guest, and we're supposed to be together for life. Can you help him, please? If you help him, I'll listen to you from now on. I won't say anything more. Sophia, unable to bear it any longer, choked up and said, but miss, last night you even asked Makoto if you could change contract beasts. Willow shot her a glance and said, I was asking if we could change for a while and then switch back. I can't leave George. He can't leave me without me. How would he survive? I was speechless. She was a madwoman, babbling nonsense. Without her, I'd be better off. I stepped in front of Sophia to prevent her from speaking further. I grabbed the doctor's wrist, freezing him in place, and smiled at Willow. Willow, I've helped you 30 times, killed 30 people, and saved your life 30 times. Shouldn't that be enough to pay for the food I've eaten these years? Willow looked confused, nodding. Then, as if sensing something, she patted her chest and asked in confusion, why can't I feel the contract anymore? I cut her off. Because it's gone. I owe you nothing. As for this mad dog, whether he lives or dies is none of my concern. I'm leaving now. Do you understand? Willow hammered her chest in frustration, saying, you always say that. Where do you think you're going? She pounded her chest, muttering to herself, why does it feel so empty? I coldly replied, probably because the contract is gone. Willow glared at me and said, you're a liar. I haven't touched the contract, so how can it disappear? You can't leave me. She blocked my way, glaring at me angrily. I scoffed. You think you can stop me? Enough of this. Thanks for the honey over the years, but it's just too awful. I then let my beastly nature take over, breaking free from the guards who had been holding me down, and with a swipe of my paw, I sent them all flying. I yanked the needle out and shoved it into the doctor's hand. Looking at Willow, who stood in front of me trembling but still trying to block my way, I grabbed her and threw her like a rag doll. She landed in the flower bed with a thud, unable to move. With ease, I became a massive, powerful brown bear, crushing the tranquilizer guns aimed at me and knocking the remaining bodyguards down. Without looking back, I dashed out of the house and ran into the dense forest on the outskirts, disappearing without a trace. I was heading back to where I was born, back to the great forest. Behind me, I heard Willow's heart-wrenching cry, shouting, George, where are you going? Come back. I didn't look back. I was going to get real honey. I didn't want to stay here starving and give blood to that foolish dog. Chapter 9. I spent a week running back to the forest. My parents couldn't contain their joy. They prepared piles of honey and dried fish for me. Every day, I either followed my father hunting or lounged beside my mother, napping. Life was incredibly comfortable. My fur quickly regained its shine, gleaming under the sunlight. My father said I was strong and quick, a great hunter. He added, it was a shame for me to be around a woman. I sat on the ground, my face smeared with honey, grinning broadly. Who says that's not true? Sometimes, I would sneak down the mountain to the human village, visit the small convenience store, and watch bear trouble on TV. On the news, the reports began. Lou Group has invested $30 million to find contract beast George. Then, Miss Lou has invested $50 million to find her good friend, George. Finally, Willow has invested $100 million to find her husband, George. In just 1 week, she increased her offer 3 times, searching everywhere for me. From the news, I heard that Makoto was found out to have been collaborating with the doctor to deceive me about my blood, and Willow had thrown him into the black market. Willow, looking haggard, appeared on the TV screen, her face pale as a ghost. She was crying uncontrollably, her voice hoarse as she choked. George, when will you come back? I won't look for any other contract beasts again. I'll never be so headstrong. I'll only recognize you as my bear for the rest of my life. Her tears flowed endlessly, her voice so raspy. She said, you can have as much honey as you want. I'll never say anything bad about you again. I won't say you're evil. The bad one is not you. Willow couldn't continue, covering her face with both hands, her shoulders trembling. The proud Miss Lou of the Lou family looked so much like that helpless little girl from years ago. But I was no longer that little bear cub. I transformed into human form, bought some beef jerky to snack on, and kept watching TV. Afterward, I clapped my hands and went home. Willow always said that bears had wicked hearts, but what could a bear do compared to her? Bears kill with sharp claws and teeth, but she didn't even need to lift a finger to kill. With just a few words, she could destroy someone's heart without shedding a drop of blood. The bear that once willingly stayed in the city eating honey with additives for her had already been killed by her. That tranquilizer gun didn't even have to fire a shot to shatter the heart of that foolish bear. Now, I no longer remembered the pain of the past or the deep scars. Compared to Willow, I found that honey was what truly attracted me as a bear. Chapter 10. I spent my time eating and drinking in the forest, occasionally sneaking down the mountain to watch bear trouble. I also saw Willow constantly appearing in the news. The bounty kept rising. Eventually, she even hired a team of mercenaries to find me. On the day I saw that news report, I heard the sound of a helicopter hovering overhead. 10 minutes later, Willow appeared at the edge of the forest. Her face was haggard, pale as if she had suffered greatly. When she saw me with my back turned, digging for a beehive, Willow's tears fell in large drops. She said, "George, I miss you so much." She came over and grabbed my arm. "I've prepared so much honey, so much dried meat, and I even hired a chef to make spring rolls just for you. 24 hours a day. You can eat whenever you want. I've even changed your bedroom back to the way it was." Oh, no. I added 3 large refrigerators, all filled with food. "George, will you come back home with me?" I paused, then asked, "Back to what home?" I pointed to the vast forest behind me and said, "This is my home." Willow pulled on my arm, saying, "The Lou family is your home. There's the yard you like, the honey, and the dried fish you love." I pointed again to the forest behind me. "But here, I have a whole forest, a river full of fish, and countless beehives." Willow was silent for a moment. It seemed like she had thought of something. She turned and ran back to the helicopter, returning with a huge bag of food. She laid it all out in front of me, saying, "Look, I've got smoked meat spring rolls, pork floss bread, fresh fish, all your favorites." I shook my head. "But I don't love those anymore." It was the foolish bear from before who loved those, but he had been shot dead with a tranquilizer gun. Now, I only ate what I hunted myself. I waved my hand. "I'm not going back with you. Please leave." I turned and walked slowly into the depths of the forest, looking for another beehive. Willow took a step forward, wanting to follow, but a huge, massive brown bear blocked her path, staring coldly at her and saying, "He told you not to follow. Can't you understand?" The brown bear gritted its teeth, eyes filled with murderous intent. It said, "My son will rule this entire forest one day." "What are you, trying to brainwash my son into doing everything for you, giving up everything for you, even offering him your blood? And you still want to force him to give blood to some cat or dog? Go look in the mirror. With someone like you, how could he ever do this for you? Without my son, how many times would you have died by now? How do you still have the face to come here?" The mercenaries quietly retreated. No one had ever seen such a huge bear. It seemed that even bullets couldn't pierce its fur. Only Willow, gritting her teeth, stepped forward to face my father. She walked toward him, her voice hoarse as she begged, "But I can't live without George. I beg you. Without him, I really can't survive." My father began to snort heavily, a sign that he was about to unleash his fury. I stopped in my tracks. Turning, I walked back to intercept my furious father, silently watching Willow. Her translucent tears, just like before, hung on her long eyelashes. When Willow saw me return, she was ecstatic. "George, you want to come with me, right?" I shook my head. "Willow, go back." Willow's face turned pale. She forced a smile and said, "I'll only want George from now on. I don't need anyone else. Take me home, please." I sighed. "No, it's no longer about whether you want me. I don't plan on wanting you. The George who protected you, who loved you, is already gone. Now, the George you're looking for has no interest in you." Willow trembled, and she said, "How is that possible? You once risked your life to save me." I interrupted her. "You've probably heard by now, I can break the blood contract, and it's not just because of my bloodline. It also requires me to have no feelings for you anymore. That's the real condition. If I still have even a shred of feelings, I can't break the contract." Willow closed her eyes and said, "I don't believe it. You've liked me since you were little. You've bled so much for me. How could you change your heart?" I sneered. "You're saying that, but didn't you also like me since we were young? But in the end, you made me bleed so much to save a lying mad dog. You also liked me when we were young, but you changed your heart without hesitation." I said expressionlessly, "Go back. If it weren't for the fact that I'm afraid your mercenary bullets might hurt the animals in my forest, I wouldn't let any of you leave here alive. Willow, the bear you're looking for, the one you loved, has already been killed by you with your own hands. Stop wasting your time." I took one last look at her before turning and walking into the forest. I said, "Only by breaking that true heart can the blood contract be undone. From now on, whether in heaven or earth, you will never find that heart again." Chapter 11. Willow wouldn't leave, so I drew a boundary. Outside the forest, Willow could stay wherever she pleased. After all, that wasn't my territory. But inside the forest, she was not allowed a single step. From that day on, Willow set up camp at the edge of the forest. The pampered young lady built her tent and tried to learn how to survive in the wild. My father wanted to kill her. I didn't oppose it in principle, but she was from the Liu family, and such a move carried too much risk. If she retaliated, it would be troublesome. I stopped him, and so I lived with Willow along the Chu River Han border, each of us on opposite sides. At night, Willow would cry and beg me, saying, "George, let me see you. I thought you couldn't break the contract. I thought you'd never leave. If I'd known earlier, I really wouldn't have." It was so annoying. I covered my ears with my thick bare paws, rolled over in my cave, and went back to sleep. But Willow blocked the only path I could take down the mountain, so I hadn't bought beef jerky or watched Bear Trouble for a long time. It really bothered me. Seeing my frustration, my father arranged for a playmate to come over. It was Anna, the daughter of the Leopard King from the neighboring mountain. Anna was slender, with long legs, the opposite of me. On her first day here, she challenged me to a tree climbing contest. As soon as I heard that, I got excited. Back when I lived with Willow, I used to climb trees every day and play hide and seek with her. I was pretty fast, but later, Willow said it would scare others, so she stopped me from climbing. Anna and I each picked a tree, and we competed for the whole morning. She won 3 times, and I won 5. With starry eyes, she said, "I thought you lived a pampered life in human society. I didn't expect you to be so capable." I smiled wryly. In human society, I learned all kinds of survival skills, got beaten up, and in the end, couldn't even eat honey. It couldn't be called a pampered life at all. The next day, Anna challenged me to a swimming race. She won. On the 3rd day, we hunted together, and we were evenly matched. She brought the catch in front of me, saying, "Delicious." Then, she stared blankly as I wildly showed off the meat. I flashed her a smile and told her to stop staring and eat it quickly. Only then did she snap out of it. Since Anna arrived, Willow had become increasingly uneasy, several times trying to sneak in, and when she heard our laughter, she couldn't resist and walked right in. She saw me eating raw meat and then glanced at the little leopard. She pursed her lips and said, "George, I'll take you out for steak, and buy you spring rolls. Don't eat this with her." Anna got angry and retorted, "Who are you? Why do you care what we eat?" I stopped her and glanced at Willow's footsteps. "You've crossed the line, and by the way, I've always liked raw meat. I'm a wild brown bear, not a domesticated dog." Willow's eyes dimmed as she quietly watched Anna and me chatting and eating happily. She watched for a long time, then turned and silently returned to the edge of the forest. She didn't speak all day, but at night, while Anna and I were watching the stars, we could hear soft sobbing sounds. Anna asked, "Is she your friend? Why does she stay there every day?" I looked at the stars in the sky and shook my head. She jumped up and said, "Then I'll bite her to death." I laughed and pulled her back, saying, "Let's forget about that. Although we're not friends now, she used to mean a lot to me." The cool evening breeze, the bright stars. I sat on the grass, bathing in the starlight through the gaps in the leaves, and suddenly felt a sense of relief in my heart. The memories I didn't want to recall seemed to be slowly coming to the surface. I turned to Anna and said, "Let me tell you a story. It's called The Disdained Bear." The chirping of cicadas blended with birdsong, the scent of grass mixed with the earthy aroma. I slowly told the story. Anna was so angry she kept grinding her claws, and the sobbing outside the forest seemed to have stopped without me even noticing. When I reached the end of the story, I said, "In the end, the bear tore apart a heart, and the pain almost killed him. Carrying the dozens of scars left over the years, he returned to the forest. At least he was lucky enough to have an escape route. If he were an ordinary contracted beast, he might have died that day." The bear decided never to go back to human society again. The forest is the only clean place. Anna's eyes turned red. She nudged me with her head and said, "Tomorrow, let's go hunting together again. Let me make it up to you." "Okay," I smiled, and she smiled back. We played until midnight before falling asleep, and in my dreams, I vaguely heard soft sobbing outside the forest. It sounded familiar, but Anna and I were curled up together in the cave, too lazy to get up and check. Chapter 12. The next day, Anna actually went to help me collect honeycombs. She wasn't careful enough, and her eyelids got swollen from bee stings. When I returned with a deer I had hunted, I tried to hold back my laughter and told her to eat first while I went to get her revenge. She squinted her eyes, feeling wronged as she ate the meat. After a moment, when she saw me coming back with the honeycomb, she paused and said, "You're amazing." I was taken aback and replied, "What's so amazing about it? I'm just fat, and I'm resistant to stings. In human society, they call me a pig." Her eyes widened. "No way. Being fat means you're resistant to the cold. You're strong, and you're powerful. For a beast, that's impressive." I froze for a moment. Apart from when Willow used to praise me for giving her a sense of security as a child, no one had called me amazing for a long time after I grew up. I tilted my head and smiled happily, saying, "Really? Then I'll eat even more." She nodded earnestly. "And you're the strongest among the beasts of our age. You swim so fast, dive so deep, hunt so fiercely, climb trees so high, You can eat, gain weight, and you're strong with great eyesight. She added, you're really amazing, and you don't even realize it. I opened my mouth wide, forgetting to eat honey. The honey dripped down, and Anna raised a paw to wipe it off. My little round black eyes suddenly misted up. I closed my eyes and said, thank you. After being praised, I ate honey with my back straight, feeling ridiculously happy inside. Anna spoke seriously. Everything I said is true. George, how about we hunt together from now on? When my mom leaves the mountain to me, we can hunt together. By then, you'll get to eat a lot of delicious food. I thought for a moment and said, then I'll share my forest with you too. Once my dad passes it down to me, I'll give you all the best food. I wasn't sure when, but my father had snuck up behind us, overhearing everything, and laughed heartily. He turned and said he was going to discuss something with the Leopard King. I turned to Anna and asked, what do those two mysterious old men want to discuss? Anna shyly covered her face with her paw and said, I don't know. Don't ask me. So neurotic. I shook my head, stood up, and went to the river to catch some fish. After walking just a few steps, I saw Willow rushing into the forest, once again crossing the boundary. She was running so fast that she slipped and fell right in front of me. She stumbled and half knelt, clutching my arm tightly. George, your dad said he wants to propose to you. If you're with her, we really won't be able to go back. I was speechless. I pulled my arm away and said, I never planned on going back with you. This is my home. Who would want to return to a small house and be a contract beast when they can rule the forest? Willow was clearly panicking, grabbing my arm again. George, don't do this to me. Look at me. I'm Willow. Can you really bear to leave me for someone else? Anna slapped Willow's hand away harshly. Let go of him. Why would he go back with you? Should he get hit with a tranquilizer or give blood to that lying dog so it can steal his strength? Willow opened her mouth but didn't say anything. Anna placed her hands on her hips and said, what are you looking at? Back then, you didn't say anything when he was protecting you. Why didn't you complain about this or that? Do you know how many things he gave up for you? Do you even care? Isn't he 100 times, 1,000 times better than that lying, scheming dog? Willow froze for a moment and instinctively covered her ears. Then, as if she had grabbed onto a life-saving straw, she said, yes, you're still holding a grudge against that dog. She added, I'll go find him now and make him apologize. George, wait for me. With that, she ran off in a hurry. I watched her crazy figure leave, utterly confused, not knowing what was happening. Chapter 13. That evening, my father returned, bringing Anna's parents with him. When Anna's parents saw me, they couldn't stop smiling, praising me for being so strong and able to protect their daughter from hyenas stealing her prey. Anna was also happy and leaned against me, laughing non-stop. She pulled me aside and whispered, from now on, let's hunt together and eat a lot of delicious food. Okay. Looking into her hopeful eyes, I remembered the joy of climbing trees, swimming, and hunting together. I nodded and said, okay. Right after that, I immediately dragged Anna off to collect honeycombs. We played happily for a few days, but then we heard the annoying sound of a helicopter buzzing above our heads. I was getting really fed up, so I walked to the edge of the forest, waiting for the helicopter to land. I watched as Willow had her bodyguards drag a disheveled figure out of the plane. The person was ragged, skinny, with dry hair, and looked somewhat familiar. It was Makoto. Willow had the bodyguards throw him in front of me and said, George, I brought that dog to you. He's the one who colluded with the doctor to try to get your blood. I've had him mining in the Black Mountain. Don't even think about him being a contract beast anymore. George, look at him now. Can you forgive me? I took a deep breath, getting more and more impatient. I crossed my arms and shook my head. No. Willow froze for a moment, then suddenly seemed to remember something. I get it now. Back then, he wanted your blood. So you want his blood to make up for it, right? Makoto shouted angrily. Are you crazy? Wasn't it you, you bitch, who begged me to find you? Now you're acting all innocent, like I'm the one to blame. You're really making a mess of things. Did I force you or pressure you to be with me? Willow shook her head violently, covering her ears to block out his words, repeating, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Don't say anything more. She was being utterly childish. I was completely fed up at this point. I stepped forward and slapped her across the face with my paw. She finally shut up. I spoke slowly and clearly. Willow, this dog couldn't hurt me. From start to finish, it's only been you who hurt me. All the chances to make things right, you've thrown them all away. You've destroyed all the past feelings. Willow, if I treated you like this, would you forgive me? Willow covered her face and said nothing. I pointed at Anna behind me. Besides, I like her now. Willow shook her head violently. No, that's impossible. You like me the most. I laughed. What do I like about you? Do I like your ingratitude? Do I like how you cheated? Do I like how you aimed a tranquilizer at me and wanted to drain my blood? With each word, Willow took a step back. In the end, She had nowhere left to retreat. She pulled out a small knife and said, "I'll give you my blood as compensation. This should be enough, right? Now you can forgive me, right?" I could tell it was pointless to argue anymore, so I turned and walked back into the forest. Behind me, I could smell the strong scent of blood, but it wasn't pleasant. I quickened my pace, heading back to my cave to eat the dried fish I had sun-dried. Whether that person lived or died behind me, it was none of my business. I have my parents, the great forest, and Anna. That's enough for me. Chapter 14. I heard that Willow was eventually rescued by her subordinates. The TV at the little convenience store said she stayed in the hospital for a long time. Moving from the surgery ward to the psychiatric ward, she spent her days hugging a small bear plushie, feeding it honey and dried meat, always staring at it and smiling foolishly. She stayed in the hospital for several years before being discharged, but by then, the Liu family had fallen from their former glory. It said that while she was in the hospital, she tortured a dog so badly that it was left in a state worse than death, sparking public outrage. Everyone said that Liu's once precious young lady had gone mad after losing her bear. The Liu family's decline became inevitable. Anna and I, in our human forms, bought a bunch of beef jerky and sat down to watch the news. I thought the news was too depressing, so I asked the shopkeeper to change the channel. The next station was showing monkeys fighting, and Anna and I laughed out loud. That was far more entertaining than watching a certain young lady go mad. After we finished watching, we went up the mountain to have a diving contest. The loser would have to collect the biggest honeycomb. As for the person who kept appearing on TV, I turned around and forgot about her. Over the years, she had faded from my memory. I couldn't even remember what she looked like. All I vaguely remembered was that once there was a little girl who was very, very kind. But she died in my memories. The woman she became when she grew up was no longer the same. And so, our story came to an end.